Okay, I've got a question. What do teen magazine posters on the wall, unfortunate haircuts, and maybe just a sprinkle of Christmas magic have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in Hallmark's 2024 movie, A 90s Christmas. And we've got a lot to talk about, Josh.
We do, Jennifer, and we will unwrap it all up for you on this episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh.
Well, get in your time machine, or in this case, your modern day rideshare, and buckle up.
That's right. I actually am realizing now I meant to wear space buns on my hair and put on blue eyeshadow. I was gonna do that, and then when the call went live, you could see me looking ridiculous. But best laid plans, I forgot. But anyways, here's the plot summary. While celebrating her promotion alone on Christmas Eve, a workaholic lawyer is transported back to 1999 via a mysterious rideshare experience. Let's go.
All right, so curtain up, and we are at a very jazzy law office holiday party, and we meet our lead. Her name is Lucy, and she's wrapping up a divorce for a client. Womp womp, which is exactly what an attorney, I guess, wants to do at a holiday party for their firm. Anywho, a coworker, Spencer, shows up with the news that she has made partner at the firm. So this is a big dream realized. Jennifer,
Did he open her mail? Is that a felony or something? Like,
sort of seems like it, right?
why did you deliver the letter open and just flailing it about? He's like, "Here you go. Here's your news. Your life-changing news."
Well, you get the
It's
sense.
appropriate.
Spencer knew all the hot goss that was apparently happening in the office. He's one of those types. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, she gets an email telling her that one of her old friends has fallen on tough times. And she gets a call from her sister, Alexa, who thinks that Lucy, is ghosting her mom. So everything is not so great for our girl after all. It turns out Lucy's sister sent her a box of stuff from the 90s, including a family photo. We learned pretty quickly that her dad passed away a few years ago. Again, can we just familiar territory here, Hallmark? Minutes later, she unpacks her unlucky romance history with Spencer over some billiards at the office. Now, Lucy, afterwards, she leaves the party and decides to stop at a diner. And she runs into this guy named Matt, who happened to grow up nearby in Milwaukee. Are we in Milwaukee where they grew up? Is that where it was? Minneapolis? Something?
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
I believe Milwaukee.
Anyway, she is celebrating with some pancakes, and he tells her that he stopped acting and now sells insurance, which he describes as, quote, the rice cake of careers. I have to agree. Jennifer, do you agree?
I agree. Does he sell insurance for State Farm? Because he was wearing a red polo that looked just like a State Farm commercial.
He's Jake
Like
from
a
State Farm.
keeper. Also, Chandler Massey looks different every time I see him in movies. I mean, I would not have recognized him if I hadn't known he was in this movie. It's bonkers what
But
they do.
can we agree that Chandler Massey should never have a middle part? It's just not a great look for him.
Agreed. Middle parts are coming back according to the TikTok, but I don't think with guys as much.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a choice. He, by the way, is separated from his wife. Matt is. So we get that Matt was a little unlucky in love too. He also gives her a hard time, saying she has a track record of avoiding the people closest to her. Ouch. That seems like a lot to tee up when you're sitting across from someone you have not seen for presumably 25 years.
Right. This whole exchange was weird. Like, because it goes from like, "Oh, how have you been?" Blah 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 to yeah, he's speaking truth into her. What? And then when she says like, "Oh, I can help you," because he's hopeful they can reconcile him and his wife. She's like, "Well, if you need help with anything or somebody to talk to, you can talk to me." And he's like, "Well, that's a little what did he say? Like basically, though, that'd be weird. We haven't talked to each other in forever." She was just trying to be nice, but yeah, that whole thing was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
It was a little off for me too. Yeah. Anyway, a waitress pops by while they're having this chat after Matt leaves and cryptically asks her questions about, hey, if you could change your future, would you? Weird, I think. Is something about to happen? Anyway, she summons an Uber or as we like to say in the Hallmark universe, a rideshare because we are Uber,
We're not
Lyft.
paying for trademarks here.
We're not
No.
we're not doing that, no. And a driver pops by, and it turns out the driver is the waitress that we saw a few seconds earlier, and her name is Grace. Now, weirdly, Jennifer, did you notice that the car is backwards?
Yeah, what was that about?
I never got an explanation from it's weird.
Christmas magic?
I don't know what's going on with this car. The the steering wheel is on the passenger side, and I couldn't get past it. I was so distracted. Did not even pay attention to anything anyone was saying.
And they don't mention it. It has to just be Christmas magic. Nothing is what it seems, right? I mean,
Apparently.
now did you notice that this rideshare driver who is also the diner girl, she was the leading lady in Shifting Gears that we talked about earlier this year.
Oh, there you go. Hmm,
Kate Burrell. I'm sure I'm not saying her name right, but yeah, loved her there.
love
Was happy
that.
to see her back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she gets in the car, and as any of us does when we hop into an Uber, she immediately falls asleep. Weird choice. Anyway, and some CGI magic happens. Lucy's phone glitches, and we get okay, time travel is happening here, and we have traveled back in time and to Milwaukee instead of her Chicago apartment. And Lucy leaves her glasses and her phone in the car. She walks into her house. She's like, "Why did you drop me off at my house?" And Grace is basically like, "'Cause this is where you need to be." Okay. She has no idea what's happening here. She's like, "Whatever." And she's presumably okay with being in Milwaukee instead of Chicago. Not a big deal, I guess. Weird.
She was more offended that she'd have to spend time with her family than the fact that she time traveled. Like, I guess she didn't know she time traveled again, but that she ended up completely different state from where she should have been.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
oddly calm.
December 1999 here, but she doesn't quite get it just yet. She doesn't really see anybody in the family because she's getting there after midnight and all of that. So she just goes to sleep. But her alarm clock goes off the next morning, and we are hearing Sixpence None the Richer's Kiss Me, which, I mean, if you've got to have a quintessential song from 99, that's probably it, don't you think?
It's a jam sandwich for sure. Mhm.
Yeah. She goes outside to grab the newspaper, and she realizes what has happened, and then she sees Grace, who happens to be there, who says this is her gift to her. Now, Grace tells her to just enjoy her time, but Lucy is having none of it. She is not sold. She is freaked out. She is not wanting to do all of this. So she wanders into her living room, and all of a sudden, she goes from being really mad to all in her feels because she's seeing all of the pictures that are on the mantle and all of that. It's right around the holidays, of course. Mom is baking, but very stressed. And Alexa, her sister, is all in her teenage angst. Teenage angst with an actress who is clearly not a teenager because we're doing a lot of that.
Yes, none of these people are age appropriate. Yeah, they
No.
basically just they did the classic thing of change their hair, and you'll believe they're, 25 years younger.
Yeah,
25 years is a long time.
long time.
I would like to think no amount of wigs and purple dye in my hair could make me look 25 years younger, but
One would hope. Yeah. She goes to take out the trash, and while doing so, she immediately throws snow on Matt. Now, Matt, of course, was her neighbor growing up, and Matt is still rocking that middle part and shoveling snow on his driveway. So she goes off to see Nadine, who is her bestie, and the gal with the present day cash trouble that we heard about a bit earlier on, and immediately says, "Hey, Nadine, guess what? I'm from the future." Jennifer, if it was 1999 and you just went to go see one of your best gal pals and you said, "Hey, guess what? I'm from the future." How exactly would that exchange go?
I would probably think some hallucinogens were, maybe in on the on the menu for that day's festivities. Something would be maybe a carbon monoxide leak in your home, maybe some brain trauma. We might be going to the ER. I wouldn't be as chill as Nadine was about all of this. Nadine's like, oh, I mean, she's skeptical at first, but she kind of comes around pretty quick,
She
quicker
does.
than I think I would.
Well, she also explains that she's into sci-fi, and to her credit, Lucy has some proof. So she starts talking about Backstreet Boys and also shows Nadine her 2024 promotion letter from her law firm, which she just happens to have tucked into her back pocket this entire movie. Just get used to that being there.
She needs to because otherwise her assistant or coworker's gonna just parade it around the office because he loves stealing her mail. Maybe she's
Apparently
like, "Let
so.
me keep this close to the vest."
Anyway, though, there's a problem that soon develops because she notices that the letterhead of that fancy letter just disappears, evaporates rather magically. She says they drift apart and it's all her fault. So she's telling Nadine, we drift apart in the future, it's all my fault. And then the letterhead just sort of magically just vanishes like that. She's off to the Electric Diner to meet up with Matt. And Jennifer, I was confused because this looks like the same diner that she was in Chicago, but now she's in Milwaukee. What happened here?
And I thought it was the Electric Diner. I thought it said Electric Diner there.
It
So
did.
maybe it's a franchise? Is it a franchise thing?
If so, that's a
I know
weird choice because I was confused.
they were big on pancakes in both timelines. They were eating a lot of pancakes. I assumed it was a franchise or that I myself had some brain trauma or something
All right,
watching
we'll
this.
go with franchise. Anyway, she's off there to meet up with Matt. A trio of gals swings by, and one of them flirts with Matt. And that's the girl that Matt wound up marrying and is now separated from in present day. Lucy then sits down next to Matt and smooches him, like, immediately, just kisses him. And then we hear the 12 Days of Christmas blare from a jukebox, and more of her promotion letter vanishes. So we're getting that if she messes with stuff in the past, that's going to jeopardize what's happening in her present. So that's sort of the theme that's emerging here. She runs into Grace as she leaves the diner on the sidewalk, who reminds her, hey, stop trying to change things. Okay. Well, before you know it, we are at the 1999 reindeer games, which is apparently a big thing. Yeah, this was apparently something she had to do. Lucy and Matt are a team, and we get a goofy montage to some 90s hip hop Christmas tune. There's a series of festive hats worn by some of these actors that I really am here for. Lucy and Matt wind up pulling off the win, complete with a ridiculous trophy, and then they celebrate over a gigantic waffle dessert. When I tell you that this sort of came out of left field, it felt really, what's the word I'm looking for here?
I feel it was disjointed maybe from
Thank
everything
you.
else.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. It just felt a little disjointed. So you thought the same thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have many thoughts about this movie.
Oh, stay
That's
tuned.
one of them.
Deep tease, deep tease. Well, the next morning, Lucy shows off her legal prowess and helps navigate the early days of the internet to settle a neighborly dispute over trees that happened to be between her mom and Matt's dad's property. Who cares? I sure don't.
Well, it was a big deal because the neighbor, Matt's family, was like, "The branches are over the fence or property line," and her mom was like, "But your late father planted those trees with his bare hands," and so she really was heartfelt and attached to said trees because of the dad thing, I
Okay,
guess.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah, nobody cares. Yeah.
Then at Matt's house, she helps him run lines for an upcoming production he's in, and he questions her choice of divorce law. To divert, maybe, she questions his practice of taping every episode of Friends, which wasn't such a weird thing to do in the late 90s. I feel like everybody did that pretty much. He talks about his love of acting, and things get a little bit flirty between the two of them. They are about to kiss when, out of nowhere, the 12 Days of Christmas yet again blares from his clock radio, and another paragraph disappears from her promotion letter. Just vanishing. She's changing the future, baby. Stay tuned.
Grace is like, "You gonna mess around and find out that
Yep.
you will have no letter.
Yep.
I will not allow it."
Yep. And Grace also tries to encourage her to lean into this awkward time travel moment. So Lucy's grandparents, they show up to her house to celebrate Christmas, and so does Matt. But Lucy's mom is grappling with grief because we get that the dad in this situation passed away relatively before all of this is unfolding here. The girls offer support and cheer her up, and the family has a great meal together. And Matt tells Lucy he told his folks about his love of acting, which is what she challenged him to do, and it didn't go so bad. So that's okay, I guess. He's thankful for her encouragement. Now Lucy is off to mend fences with her sister Alexa and has a very sweet heart to heart with her about being authentic to who you really are. And sure enough, the 12 Days of Christmas plays yet again, and another paragraph of her promotion letter vanishes. Matt and Lucy find some time to go ice skating and talk about the future. And when I tell you that I had anxiety, crippling anxiety watching this ice skating scene, it's the same thing we saw earlier this season. If you're going to do an ice skating scene, there cannot be errant Christmas trees just sprinkled across the ice. That is not happening at any ice rink anywhere in the world. Yet this is something now we have seen twice on Hallmark Channel this season alone. I am over it.
Well, the gauntlet has been dropped. Do you drop a gauntlet? Throw it down? Established? Well, did they do that in 1999? Was that true to ice rinks in 1999? I don't think so.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it seems like a complete pine hazard for sure.
A pine hazard indeed. He tells her, anyway, that he wants to be in her life, and they almost smooch under the mistletoe. But here comes the 12 Days of Christmas over the loudspeaker. Okay, we get it. We get it. Okay?
The 12 Days of Christmas is one of my least favorite songs anyways, which is what she alluded to early in the movie. In present day, she hates the song. So I did think it was funny to use this as like a storytelling device because and I'm am probably in this, but it took me a while to figure out it's counting down. It's almost like 12 strikes. Uh-huh. So you start, or I don't know if it's counting up or counting down, but there were 12 times this could play before you die. I don't know what happens if you run out of time. Self-destructs, but I can't remember if it's counting down or counting up, but it was a different number every time she got in trouble, Grace, which I did think was fun.
After the ice,
See?
wait,
So, I'm sorry, what is it? I can't think of the right I can't think of an appropriate term. Anyways, the 12 Days of Christmas is really ruining their relationship. It's getting
yes, throwing it into jeopardy. Grace is there to offer Lucy a ride home in her mysterious ride chair, but now she's conflicted. She wants to change things, but she can't. She unpacks that conflict with her friend Nadine, who tries her darndest to talk some sense into her. Matt is performing, you know, in his big stage production of A Christmas Story, and his folks are there. Lucy's there too to watch. He runs after her when it's all over and calls on her when he calls her on her pulling away when they start getting close. Her letter has fully reappeared, but is she really happy? So it's sort of this thing of like she backed off on trying to change things and her letter reappeared. But then she's sort of like, "Oh, I'm actually happy about that. I don't know." She has a heart to heart with her grandpa over pool. He suggests she listens to the universe. She does just that and lays it all on the line with Matt. She realizes it will change the course of history, and it does, literally. So she kisses him. All of a sudden, there is a jolt of electricity, and we get a course of history changing montage where we just see it all. We see them getting engaged. We see their wedding. We see her sister's wedding. We see her mom being there and happy and all of these other things. We see him succeeding in his career. And then they have a baby and they buy a house in the whole nine yards. When it's done, we're back in the present day. Lucy and Matt are living their best life together. And presumably everything is great. And the end.
It's time for gold or coal.
Okay, it is time for our gold or coal segment where Josh and I will each bring 3 gifts to the pod. If there's more gold, it's I want it that way. And if there's more coal, it's bye, bye, bye. And if it's a tie, it's just a meh. Merry Christmas. Sidebar, I was a Backstreet Boys girl, so there you go. You had to pick a team. Anyways, Josh, I'm coming to you first. What gifts are you bringing to the pod?
Oh, I'm starting with coal. I'm starting with some coal here. This thing was called A 90s Christmas. They did not lean into any of this 90s stuff like they could have. This movie could have taken place in modern day. They didn't even really change the clothing or the hairstyles or the decor of these homes. Anything. We didn't get any cultural references to the 90s. It just was like half-hearted at best, and it really bothered me. I thought that they could have made this so much more about the 90s and placed in the 90s, and it just did not work for me at all.
Yeah, there were moments like in the beginning, there were hints of it. Like there were the posters on her wall in her childhood room and like Teen Beat magazines and the mixed CDs and all this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm here for. And then they just kind of dropped it. And a lot of the movies, she was wearing sweaters that had bows on them, which are very in style now. And I don't remember them being in style in the 90s. 1999 specifically was like Jinko, Mud, like Abercrombie, Tommy Hilfiger, like those brands,
Yeah.
not random bougie bows from the Jackie Kennedy collection. It was no, they did not. They dropped that plot real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna give the same. I agree. Um, I have Cole. What triggered this event? Why did this happen now? Because she saw him in the franchise diner? Is that
Presumably.
presumably but it wasn't a warm interaction like what we talked about. It's not like she's they didn't really connect that well other than, like, what you would expect if with somebody you haven't seen in a while. He's still married, by the way. It's not like he's single as a Pringle, and she wasn't even, like, Instagram friends with her. She was pulling him up after he left to stalk his socials and accidentally clicked a heart to and liked a photo, but it's not even like he'd been on her mind or they had been DMing or anything. And now we're triggered back to rewrite the wrongs of the past? Who
Mhm.
cares?
Yeah.
They don't she wasn't thinking about this man.
Yeah. So Cole for you?
That would be cool, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's cool.
I just needed to clarify there just to be sure.
A call. Mhm.
Cole,
Cool.
yeah. More Cole for me here.
No.
This thing is not a Christmas movie at all.
No.
Literally, they could have dumped this any time of the year. There was nothing tied to the holiday here. None of these characters had any tie to any kind of Christmas shenanigans or anything. It was not a Christmas movie. And Cole.
They did the reindeer games, Josh. That's why they did it. That's the only reason they did it. It was out of left field because they got to the end and they're like, they put it through their like Merry meter over at Hallmark and like, "Dee, dee, dee, not jolly enough. We gotta alter the Merry meter.
Manufacture some plot point around Christmas. That's exactly what it felt like. And it
Yeah,
felt half-hearted and no, not good.
no, I agree. I will give some cool. I did not care about these characters. I didn't care about the emotional beats. None of them. I didn't think any of it worked. Now, I will, okay, I shouldn't say none. The only one I kind of liked was when her grandparents come back in the house, and presumably in present they've passed, and she gets to see them again, and she hugged them and was like, "It's just really good to see you." And they're like, "We saw you at Thanksgiving." And she's like, "No, it's been too long. It's really good to see you." I did like that. In a vacuum, I liked that moment. The rest of them didn't care about it. Didn't care about her, didn't care about him, didn't care about the relationship, didn't care even really about the sister or the mom, like, none of that felt authentic to me. Eh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And my last gift is gonna be Cole. This it just wasn't a fun watch for me, honestly. It wasn't I didn't find the script all that punchy or interesting. I didn't find the plot all that compelling. There were a lot of holes, a lot of, "What are we doing here?" A lot of these moments where I was just like, "What is going on?" And I don't like watching a movie where I'm like, "What are we doing here?" It felt like this is gonna sound really dramatic. It just felt like this movie lacked purpose. Like, it felt very filler for me.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree, and I will bring my final gift to the pod, and it's gonna be coal. I fell asleep twice, and I watched it in the morning, okay? I was well rested. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I tell you I put this movie on, and I could not it did not keep my attention at all. I don't know, like and I think it bums me out mostly because we were really excited about when you drafted this, I think we went, "Woohoo!" Like, we just thought, "This is a great opportunity." It's a little bit of a bummer that we're doing time travel movies for times that we were very much aware of, and, like, we're not going back to the '70s anymore, we're going back to our eras, which is a reality check for our age. But we were really excited, like you said, they had a lot of opportunities and they left it on the table. I don't know, this is
Yeah.
just Is this your least favorite that we've watched this year?
By far my least favorite.
Me
And it's
too.
not just because it was not a great movie, it's because for me, this was like such a missed opportunity. Because if you think about it, Hallmark's been trying to do all kinds of new concepts and new types of movies, and this could have been the movie where they could have brought in a younger demographic and done something that had a lot more nostalgia to it. And this thing lacked nostalgia. When she opened that box of stuff that her sister sent her early on in this thing, and I saw that Walkman, that sports Walkman, that
Uh-huh.
yellow one, that was like, "Okay, I see what you're doing here," and I
Yeah.
wanted more of that. I wanted more of those sort of references that would be winks and nods to things we remember, and we just got none of it. So this was, for me, a major swing and a miss.
It was a miss. And who was Grace? Is she like a guardian angel? Like, does she work for some time travel corporation? We don't What happens to her? Does she get her wings? Does she get a pair of bell-bottom pants? What does she get out of the deal?
Yeah, and there
I
was
think
no sort of
cargo pants, really.
yeah, and that's a great point because it's like she does all this stuff and changes the course of history. Well, we never see Grace at the end. Like, what? Anyway, I don't think it's worth your watch. I think it just
No.
would make you mad more than anything. I just can't recommend it.
Now, we did have some of our listeners write in, and they did like it a lot. They were surprised by it, so maybe it's us that
Maybe they saw
let's
something we didn't.
I enjoyed My Sweet Austrian Holiday more than this, and that was previously my lowest of what we've watched. Now, I've seen some of the new Hallmark Plus joints that we haven't covered on the pod that are lower than any of this. Bad. But out of what we've talked about on the podcast, yeah, this is the lowest for me. It's such
Yeah.
a bummer. It's like totally a bummer, Josh.
So you know what we've got to say to this one? Bye bye bye.
Bye bye. Well, that, friends, is another sad episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
Listen, they can't all be good. Hey, special thanks to Nick Schwartz for our amazing theme song, and of course to each and every one of you for taking the time to listen and laugh along with us on your favorite podcast platform or on our YouTube channel.
That's right, because if you weren't around in 1999, now we've come a long way, baby, with connecting on podcasts. So check us out at doyouwatchwhatIwatch.com. Up next, we're going to do a Miriam Bright highlight, is what we're calling these. So it's the much anticipated, long awaited, long talked about holiday touchdown, a Chiefs love story. We didn't draft it. But we have no choice as Christmas movie connoisseurs, but to talk about this podcast. No, this movie on the podcast briefly. So here's the plot summary. Alana?
Alana.
Alana Higman. Okay. Alana Higman, a diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan, and her family are competing to win the team's Fan of the Year contest in a process judged by the director of fan engagement, Derek. Well, that's short and sweet, isn't it? We will have much, much, much to discuss. But until then,
May your days be merry and bright. We'll see you soon.